Well, everybody, what do we have here? Lumber. Lumber is what we have here. In today's video, guys, I'm going to build something that I saw at a friend's house a few years ago, and I always wanted to build one, so here is a picture of it that I took at the time. Isn't it just incredible? I just fell in love with it and saw the value and fun that we could have with one of these. So now let's take a look at the plan and do the entire build. I'll give you guys an entire cut list, and I've gone ahead and drawn up sketches so that you can build your own as well, complete with the angles of the various cuts, which I didn't have when I began but found out along the way. The hardest part of the build was the angles, of course, in particular on the roof, so worthwhile grabbing those for sure. Okay, so I got a general sketch from my friend, so I expanded on that. I only made two changes. One was raising the height by about 20 mil and raising the tabletop by about 3.5 inches. I'm quite tall, and the whole family is pretty tall, so I just wanted to raise up the table a little bit so it feels more kitchen table rather than picnic table. Okay, so the cut list, it is made entirely of 2x4s and 4x4s and carriage bolts. That is it. Carriage bolts of two sizes. I'll pop those on screen and I'll tell you exactly how many of each also. So on each one of these I place a washer also, and I always tend to go with a lock nut for projects like this where the bolts, I'm hoping, will be permanent. So starting at the bottom of the build, I cut four 2-meter long 2x4s to make two pairs. I measure up for the holes that would be in for the 6 4x4 uprights. On each pair, 2 outside uprights to support the seats and the roof, and 2 for the table legs on each side. So don't forget, you are doing this twice. Something really nice about these projects in the office is the kiddos. You know, this is my oldest, and she loves to get involved and learn about why we're doing things. At the moment I'm just holding a piece of 2x4 because I'm using it to mark out holes on the other 2x4s to make sure they're spaced perfectly, and she's just full of curiosity, and it's nice to try and explain it to the kids and get them involved in this stuff. And as you'll probably see later in the video, actually ratcheting bolts and stuff like that as well is really important for them. So yeah, don't tell them to get out of the way or leave you to it. Involve them, slow your project down a little bit, and just bring them along. So guys, as you can see here, clamps are pretty important for me on this build anyway. I don't have a second pair of hands, so to make the seats completely 90 degrees, I'm using clamps just to help along. So next up is putting the supports for the seats in. So I have my holes done in the 4x4 and I have it all lined up with the 2x4, and I've cut an angle. I believe that angle is 30 degrees or so, and just make sure that it is 90, so I'm using my spirit level as I go along as well. Now for marking out the table, I just cut the lengths that were in the drawing in the plans, and as you can see I have marked where the 4x4s are. So that's a 4x4 in the first one, and the center of a 4x4 is where I'm trying to go. I'm using the 2x4 I mentioned earlier just to mark the perfect spaces and line them up. But yeah, I'm marking the center point, and instead of marking it on the second one, I'm just drilling straight through as best I can, and once the drill goes through, it should mark the second piece. And they will in turn end up right there, up against those two 4x4s that are standing in the middle. Now on to the magical fun that is clamping things up, making sure they're completely flat when you clamp them, and there's a bit of jiggery pokery as we say here, but just kind of making it work as best you can. Next up guys, we are back to cutting 2x4s. All of these will be of the exact same length, and 3 for the back of the seat, 3 for the seat of the seat, multiply by 2 because of the other seat, and then I'm going to do 6 of them on the table, so the tabletop will be made of 6 rather than 5. There is room for 6, and I just think having 5 is maybe a little bit too spacious. I want people to be able to use this table for a lot and not have huge gaps in it, you know. So time to get cutting. Now guys, as John Malecki, popular woodworking YouTube channel, would say, things got a little bit squirrely, and instead of cutting these uprights as they were not upright, which would have been very, very clever. I believe this degree or angle is 26 degrees. I'll put it up on screen if I'm right or if I'm wrong, just so you have the perfect angle if you want to make it look like mine. I actually went ahead with the skill saw and cut these while they were standing. Not crazy, but I could have just laid them down if I was using my brain. It was just getting late, as you can see out the window. So yeah, when your brain is getting tired, it might be time to call it a night. And also when things are just getting squirrely or you're taking a shortcut, just forget about it. You need a fresh head, you know. Alright, on to shiplap. I'll put up on screen and in the description of the video exactly how many lengths of this shiplap I got. And let me just double check on the invoice. And the length of it was 16 feet. This was to cover the roof. I cut it all before roofing it, and I kind of left it a bit tight, I feel. Just to let you know that what I would probably do again is cut them all to a length, but add about 20, 30, 40 mil, whatever you want, and then put them all up, because it's very, very hard to get things bang on square, because the ground outside the house, as you'll see in a while, is not perfectly level either. So cut it perfect, but give yourself a lot more space, and then if you need to run a saw up along the entire edge of it when you are putting it on, then it won't look out of place. It will look absolutely fine. So here we go, cutting shiplap. Definitely more expensive than 2x4s and 4x4s for that matter, so let's hope it ends up looking nice. Time for things to get a little bit squirrely. So once I had my angles on the uprights correct, I just ran a 2x4 up against it basically. I was lucky enough to have the space in the shed to do it, and I didn't know how to get a perfect angle downwards, so I just got a string, as you can see here, and just let gravity do the work for me and tell me what that angle should be. So a lot of messing around here, making it right, making it perfect, but you're guaranteed to have a perfectly kind of square vertical cut because of gravity. So look, this worked for me. If I was a bit more of a mathematician, maybe I could do it the other way, but needs must. So I'm going to have a brace running across these roof pieces, so I'm just going to do a little kind of simple glue and screw as best I can. More complicated than one would think, really, roofing start to finish. So I know this is just a tiny little project, but my gosh, like, fair play to anybody who works in roofing. Honestly, it's it's more complicated than you would think. It actually is. So, guys, this was the first time in the actual build that I felt, there's an actual shape to this coming together. None of these pieces of wood, the horizontals, the table, the seats, they're not actually connected or screwed in. They're just sitting there really in. They're just adding for a bit of stability. But when I got the beginnings of the roof, the frame of the roof on, I really thought, wow, this is taking shape. It was my oldest kid's birthday the next morning. We had friends down from Dublin. A very handy friend actually to have, which is great. Does a lot of, just self-taught himself tiling, electrics, plumbing, the whole shebang. Has done incredible work in his own houses. But he was down and we said, look, we'll try and smash through it for the evening. So this is why we will have some nighttime footage very soon, or on screen here. And we just want to get the frame out, and while I was doing one thing, he was putting pilot holes into all of the cross braces, I suppose you'd call them, the seats and the tables and everything. But here's how it looked outside that night, and hopefully soon you'll see exactly what it looked like the next day. I didn't really get a lot of video doing the shiplap roof, but it's basically Lego, hammer it in as center as you can, line it up as best you can, and then it all kind of fits in and slots in beneath itself all the way down along. So it wasn't that complicated, but here's a quick look.